If you store your onions in the refrigerator, you will not cry when you cut them. Okay, see, look at my face. Am I crying, dear? No tears. No tears. Okay. I have not cried cutting onions in the 30 years since I've learned this tip. And, okay, show again. See, no tears. Toaster got set on the wrong setting. Here's how you fix it. This is how Grandma did it. We do not waste any bread.
But the germs inside are gross, Mom.
Oh, stop. Okay, so I put my hamburgers in the fold top sandwich bags, which are a penny piece. You fold the top down, and this little flap comes over. Then I pop these in the refrigerator, and these are 1 meal portions, about 3/4 of a pound. You can save up to 50% off on our Dining on a Dime cookbooks for our Mother's Day sale happening right now. Easy recipes to get you in and out of the kitchen quick that your family will love. The link is in the description below. Please go check out our Dining on a Dime cookbooks right now and grab them up to 50% off. Sweetened condensed milk has sugar and milk. Evaporated milk is just milk with some of the water removed, so it's concentrated. I always buy my vinegar in these big ones, but I got one little one just so that it's easier to handle. You can set your corn syrup in some warm water before you start this, and then it'll come out quicker. If you're one of those frugal people who needs a laxative like me, and you just can't let that last little bit go to waste. If you have leftover Cool Whip or whipped cream, take and put dollops on your parchment paper or silicone liner. Put it in your freezer and let it freeze until they are frozen solid, about an hour or so. And when you have your dollops of whipped cream or whipped topping frozen, just take and throw them in a baggie. Ooh, the lights are melting them quick. Just keep them in the freezer and pull one out when you are ready for your hot cocoa. Do not waste your leftover pie crust. You know how sometimes you put your pie crust in and you have these little bits left? Just roll them out, just like so. Then put them on your baking sheet. Sprinkle a little bit of cinnamon and sugar. This is just my pre-made cinnamon and sugar. In case you guys are wondering, I fill it to sugar about here and then to here with cinnamon, so about that much cinnamon in a big one. And then throw it in the oven and bake it. All right, now you have cinnamon bites. Oh, it's still hot. Yum. I keep my baking mix in a canister. Isn't this cute? It was only $2 at the thrift store. I just thought that was too darn tootin' cute to pass up. Put my baking mix in a canister. Why? Because then it's way easier to measure out. So I pour my baking mix in there if I'm buying it. And then I just keep a 1/2 cup or 1 cup measure scoop in there. Then I don't have to dirty another measuring scoop. For those of you who don't know, 1 stick of butter is a 1/2 cup or 8 tablespoons. This recipe calls for 3/4, so I threw in 1 stick. And then I'm going to cut the half. That's how you measure butter. And check garage sales. I got 1,000 of these for $1. I'm never gonna need muffin liners ever again in my entire life. So check garage sales for cooking items. This was a restaurant that was going out of business, so that was a darn tootin' good deal. Use my baking grease to fry my squash. Here's a little tip. Use these fold top sandwich bags because these are only a penny piece to put your onions in, and then you're not spending 2 to 3 cents on the zip top baggies, and then you can just throw these away when you're done. I got this bacon for $1.47 a pound to make cooking easy. I just throw it in my Dutch oven, put the lid on, and there you have perfectly cooked bacon with just one pan and no mess. I just keep stirring the bacon and it'll just fry in its fat there. And I just keep stirring it around until they're all nice and crispy. It is all done. We got a boatload of free bananas. Oh my goodness, this is so yummy. I'm going to freeze these and make smoothies. This is what's left with my garden produce. I'm gonna cut the tops out, slice these, and freeze them for fajitas. In case you guys didn't know how to cut a pepper, slice down the middle, pull it apart, pull it out. There you go. No wasted pepper. Cut up all my veggies on a Walmart sack, newspaper if you want to compost it. Take it up, throw it away. I got the small olives instead of the medium or the large because even though it's the same weight, when you use the small ones, if they're used whole, then you will use less of them if you use the small ones versus the big ones. Does that make sense? Because you'll use more big ones. Say there's 10 small olives that will equal 5 large olives. So that's why it looks like more when you're eating. So that's a way to stretch your olives. Now I get a lot of people asking about recipes for 1 or 2 people. So what I do when it's just my husband and I will buy a big package like this because it's cheaper by the pound. And then I will just cut it up into either the tenderloins, or if I'm going to be cooking chicken breasts, usually I cut them in half so that they cook quicker. I'm doing tenderloins now because that's what I want. And literally it takes me 5 minutes to cut up this amount of chicken. Okay, then what I do is I take my plastic storage bag here, and this is serving for 2 people or for lunch and dinner for 1 person. So we're gonna have fajitas one day, so I'm gonna put that in and get my fajita stuff already going. Then another day we're gonna have the Montreal seasoning. Now, guys, we have these recipes in our cookbook for the spices. What I do is just go in, and I've had these for a long time, and I just refill them, and then I just already know what they are. So then just mush it together and then just throw it in the freezer like that. I don't have the smaller freezer bags at the moment, so that's why I did this. And then you could just take this out as needed and cook it up for each dinner. Wear gloves, guys. That way you don't have to worry about getting the pepper off your fingers. So here's something I did. I added water to the bottom of the Kool-Aid that had a little bit of sugar in Kool-Aid. So there's gonna be a little bit of cherry flavoring and sugar. So I'm gonna have just a little bit of cherry flavoring in Kool-Aid that I'm going to add to my tea. Okay, so let me show you real quick. I do the little cubes because if you fill them 3/4 full right there, it's exactly 2 tablespoons of bacon grease. So this makes it great if you're counting calories or you just need to know a precise amount. I have been freezing in these little cubes because it is just so convenient. If you want to use a regular tray, it is still 2, oops, I got that one just shy, but it's still 2 tablespoons. So now I'm going to throw this in the freezer and show you how they just pop out. Okay, here they are frozen, and I just pop them out. Whoops. They store my bacon cubes just like this in the freezer. And I take one, rub it all over my griddle, just like so. There we go. Then I just throw it back in there. I keep mine in a big jar like this. And what I do is after I'm done cooking my bacon, I let it cook, or I let it cool for just a little bit. And then I just strain mine. Mom doesn't strain hers. She lets all the stuff just fall to the bottom. But I just don't usually hold it steady enough that I usually catch a little. So I just pour it through the strainer, just like that. And then I have my fresh bacon grease. Okay, I use bacon grease even when I'm just frying regular chicken. It just adds a really good flavor. Okay, the next thing I use bacon grease for is to fry steaks. Now, I know steak lovers of the world are just gonna have a coronary when they see what I'm gonna do here, but I have my frozen steak here. And I'm going to get one of it fried, put the lid on, and defrost the rest and cook the other side. Got bacon grease right here. I just keep on my counter. I just do a small jar and I melt it in my pan and make my scrambled eggs with it. Bacon grease is good for greasing your pans and for greasing your bowl. So what I do is I stick my bread down there and then turn it around just like so. Now I had too much, so I'm going to do my pans with this also. What I usually do is just take a paper towel, I didn't have quite enough, and just grease your pan with your bacon grease. This is the way something that you would normally throw away, you can reuse again. It is cold here in Wyoming, so when I run out of refrigerator and freezer space, guess what I do? I set it outside or in the garage. I found a really darn tootin' good deal at Walmart. They had chicken for $1.40 a pound, then chicken for $1.26 a pound. So I got a good portion of what they had because at that time my freezers were empty. So when I find a really good deal like that, I will stock up. Now what's funny is, right before that I had stopped at the grocery store and they had it for $1.56 a pound, or $59 a pound, and normally that's my stock up price. So I had gotten several packages of it before, and then I ran across this extra super good deal. This is where our price book comes in to play. So then you know when it's a good deal to stock up. So people ask me, how do I store all of this chicken? So what I do is I just throw it straight in my freezer. I don't even leave the plastic bags on. Mike did this because I never leave the plastic bags on. Well, unless it's dripping. If it's got juices that are dripping, then I'll leave the plastic bag around it till it's frozen. But I just throw it in like this and I use it fast enough that I don't need to worry about it. If I get the big boxes of chicken, then I will repackage it into here. But if I get these, like the ones that I got at Walmart, then I will just leave them in this and just throw them in the freezer. So I got these peppers from my garden and they are super spicy. So what I'm going to do is cut them up and dehydrate them. These I got from a friend. She says they're super spicy, so I'm going to dehydrate them. And then I'm going to crush them up and make a hot pepper powder. And then I have hot pepper whenever I need it. without having to go buy peppers. Just cut it up into little pieces, just like so. Wear gloves, guys, that way you don't have to worry about getting the pepper off your fingers. Okay, now we're gonna put this in the oven at 170 degrees for several hours until they're dried out. This week Mom found 53 cents for French bread. You could see that Jack gobbled it up before I could even film it hardly. It was $1.47, 75% off. All right, here's a little tip. My honey has crystallized. So what I did was I cut the bottom of the big honey jug off, and I'm gonna put all of my honey in here and melt it down, and then I'm gonna save this and wash it and use it to set my honey jar on, so when it drips, I don't have a big mess to clean in my cabinet. My honey that's gotten crystallized, I'm just gonna stick it in the boiling water. It just takes a couple of minutes for it to dissolve. Okay, you can see my honey's all melted. And now, see, all the crystals are even off the side. And now I can go use it again. And there's my little thing to keep it from getting all over. I just store it right here in my cabinet, and there's my honey. No mess.